Alright, so we've made a few videos about the non-playoff teams. These are the 7 NHL teams who are not good enough to qualify for the return-to-play format. They are the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators, the San Jose Sharks, the LA Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, the Buffalo Sabres, and the New Jersey Devils. These have been the 7 teams that have been the subject of many different discussions over the past few months. From different things like the draft lottery to the overall extended time off these teams were given, as well as the potential for them to trade as early as, well, I believe it was during the postseason, something like that. We made a video about that a while ago, but I completely forgot the time frame. But today we're talking a little bit more about these 7 teams, because a recent article on MichiganLive.com kind of goes over what exactly we could see for them in the next few months. The Red Wings and the non-playoff teams are likely to start their training camps sooner. But when? This was written by Ansar Khan, published just under a week ago, so it is kind of old news, but indeed there are some quotes here I wanted to go over from Steve Yzerman, just hinting towards the idea of these 7 clubs going out there and doing their thing sooner rather than later. Take a look at this. This is from Red Wings GM Steve Yzerman himself. I think at this point, the non-playoff teams will get some kind of an earlier start. I'm not sure it'll be 2 weeks. More realistically, it might be 1 week. I think it's part of the main plan between the NHLPA and the league of trying to get back to work. Now, hold on. Why exactly could these teams go out there and get an earlier start to their training camps, you may ask? Well, it's actually a pretty good reason, because if you take a look at these 7 teams, the Sabres, Devils, Senators, you know what I'm talking about here, these teams have not played hockey since March. Let's count this up together now, shall we? From March, you go over to April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and now November. That's 8 months. Then you add on December, because we're not going to see any NHL action in December either. That's 9 months. You could literally have a child between the time these Red Wings have stopped playing hockey and then when the proclaimed 2020-2021 season is supposed to be starting. We know from the article it's written about stuff that has been said around the league. 2021 NHL action is not going to happen anytime before January 1st. But we have seen some other stuff from around the league talking about, okay, people want it to start in January. People want to play 82 games. We've seen some other parties saying that they don't think the NHL is going to start anytime before November and that a 40 to 50 game schedule may be more realistic. We don't know what's going to happen, or at least at the time of recording this video, 12:20 a.m. November 10th on Tuesday, PST, we have no idea what's in store. But when it comes to these 7 teams, an extra week or so of training camp may not be enough, in my opinion at least, to justify the fact that they literally have not played hockey in almost a year. There's a very big difference between an Ottawa Senators team that stopped up play in March and the New York Rangers, for example, who played the smallest amount of time that you could have in the return-to-play format. They had a full-on training camp, they had a 1-game preliminary session, and then they got swept by the Hurricanes in the return-to-play qualifying series. They didn't even make the Stanley Cup Playoffs. But at the end of the day, what the New York Rangers did was they had a full camp, they had themselves 1 game of prelims, and then they had 3 important, meaningful games against the Carolina Hurricanes. Sure, they lost all of them, but playing is better than not playing. So these teams, in my opinion, have a lot to gain in having themselves a little bit more of an extended time to get their training camps on. But, in my opinion, it's just not enough. Let's go over onto what Steve Yzerman says, because he's actually not as concerned as I am. This is the altering perspective over here. Let's take a look at what Yzerman says. He's not concerned about players not being prepared following the long layoff. Why? Here's why. Players are skating. It's not game-like situations, but they'll get it back relatively quickly. I don't know what training camp is going to look like. Don't know how many preseason games we play, if any, but from watching the playoffs, guys being out from March to late July, the first few games were sloppy. But after 3, 4, 5 games, you saw the guys looking pretty good. I'm hopeful that our guys are all conscientious and motivated and self-disciplined, and I believe they are. So there you have it. He's not really as concerned as I am, and of course, it's Steve Yzerman that my opinion is going up against here, so I really don't have too much authority to disagree. But we are indeed free to say whatever it is that we want. It's just that I think that, Steve Yzerman even goes over it himself. The first few games after returning to play were kind of sloppy, and if you're one of these 7 teams that have had so much time off, you don't want sloppiness. You want to get out there, you want to play your best every single night. That's what the Buffalo Sabres went out and did. They're in a position where they want to be a contender next year. So who knows if 5, 6, 7, 8 games at the beginning of 2020, 2021 is a difference maker by the time the playoffs come around. Who knows? If you're Detroit, you don't care. You guys are not really expected to be good anyway, so who cares if you guys miss out in terms of getting 100% of your effort out there during games 1 through 5? It's kind of okay in my opinion. But the other teams that may want to be a little bit more competitive, there is some room to worry. So I wouldn't be surprised personally if a Buffalo Sabres team was demanding a 2-week training camp instead of a 1 week like Steve Yzerman lays out here could be the actual truth. But now let's go over just exactly what these teams have to gain from a little bit more of a training camp-like environment for their squads. Obviously Detroit, they have so many new players. John Merrill, Troy Stecher, Bobby Ryan, Thomas Greiss. Some of these guys were in the postseason. So a lot of these guys are going to have themselves a lot to work with when it comes to their overall body of work from the playoffs into the new year, especially with an extended training camp. You have yourselves the other teams that were down there at the bottom too. Ottawa, they had themselves a whole bunch of new signings. They signed Dadonov, they traded for Matt Murray, they made some big moves. Not to mention the Tim Stützle that you picked up at the 2020 NHL draft that is probably good enough to play in the NHL already, and you probably will get some serviceable ice time from him there. And then you have Buffalo. We spoke about Buffalo. They added Eric Stahl. They added Taylor Hall. They added some guys in the offseason that we believe are going to make huge impacts. And they still have Dylan Cousins, Casey Mittelstadt, and a few other younger guys too to break into that lineup. Who knows if a Jack Quinn is even tested in there? I personally don't believe it's a right idea, but who knows? Weirder things have happened. Same with the Devils. They got themselves some D-men in the free agency period. They got themselves Ryan Murray via trade, as well as Dmitry Kulikov. They have themselves Holtz, whom they drafted in the draft, but he's actually not allowed to come over to North America, so he'll probably stay in Sweden for now. But they have some room to work with, develop some chemistry, and actually have themselves a year. Who knows what Jack Hughes is going to be able to do too, because this guy, hopefully, is coming back angry, lustful for goals and points, because we all kind of know the story of his rookie season. I talked about it several times here on the YouTube channel, but Jack Hughes quite literally had the worst first overall rookie season we had seen in the past 2 decades when taking a look at points, points per game, and points per 60. It's not including the goalies, of course, but it is including the D-men. Aaron Ekblad, Rasmus Dahlin, Eric Johnson, these guys had better offensive production than Jack Hughes in their rookie seasons, and they're D-men. And with what we had with Quinn Hughes saying that Jack Hughes is working really hard in the offseason, I'm really excited to see how he's going to be able to perform in 2020, 2021. Next up on these teams, though, the LA Kings. We spoke about the Kings a few times. They're going to have so much young talent that they can insert in their lineup. It's not even funny. Velarde, Madden, Akil Thomas, Arthur Kaliev, Alex Turcotte, Samuel Fagemo. They have so many different players in their organization that can make a significant impact sooner rather than later. So I want to see just how these guys are going to be able to go out there and present themselves next year. And then you have the San Jose Sharks. They're a team that is looking to redeem themselves after what was a very poor season with one of the better rosters on paper you would expect. They still have Brent Burns. They still have Erik Karlsson. They're still in a position where they want to remain competitive, so who knows what a longer training camp is going to help in terms of their overall performance. And then you have Anaheim. They're a team that as well has some pretty nice players. They signed Jamie Drysdale a few days ago. Who knows if they give him the 9 games, or maybe they go with him the full season. I would not think that's the right move, but who knows. And I think that's all the teams that we need to talk about. The 3 Cali teams, LA, San Jose, Anaheim, then the 4 teams in the East, Detroit, Ottawa, Buffalo, and New Jersey. Yeah, I think we spoke about all of them. So talk to me in the comments what you think about this idea here, the idea of the 7 non-playoff return-to-play teams getting an extended training camp. Are you for this? Are you against it? I would obviously love to see it, but I don't personally think it's enough to make up for the lost time, especially with the other teams having a play-in series, or even more than that. But regardless, talk to me in the comments what you think if you enjoyed this edition of that show, and bye.